Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into Topi Hall 2's The White Riders, an allegorical journey through the manner of religions. It's an intensely symbolic, action-packed story all about spiritual warfare. Let's get right into it.
So, imagine this. What actually happens when a chosen few are called to face ultimate darkness? That's the core mystery hooking us in here. We're looking at a religious allegory that is entirely defined by absolute extreme contrasts. On one side, you have forces of pure light and faith. On the other, a terrifying stronghold of systemic spiritual darkness. The author basically takes these internal struggles, things like faith, reason, and religious oppression, and makes them incredibly literal. We're talking literal monsters and literal heroes.
All right, let's actually meet the heroes pulling this off. And what's fascinating is that each character brings a specific, symbolic weapon that perfectly represents their unique spiritual background. First up, we've got Jack Redwood. He deeply respects the creator and wields this striking multicolored bow with sharp white arrows. Then there's Asa Olbrumoy, a fisherman from a northern Sami village. His weapon? A traditional Lappish reindeer bone knife. And finally, Esther. Her weapon isn't a blade at all, actually. It's a glowing messianic Bible gifted by her grandfather. You see, these aren't just tools. They're literal manifestations of their personal faith and heritage. And, well, it's a really good thing they have those unique gifts, because the final battle is officially kicking off. The Archangel Gabriel initiates this massive gathering, and the author paints the scene with some seriously surreal, almost cinematic imagery. Picture this. Jack Redwood is just sitting in a white teepee smoking a white peace pipe on white sheep's wool, having just seen a vision of his holy tribe. And then out of nowhere, a long white limousine with darkened windows just glides right into his yard. Gabriel's gentle voice comes over the speakers announcing that they are gathering the White Riders to take on the powers of darkness.
Now, for our next hero, the pacing is just breathless. Let's trace this timeline. Minute 1, we start at the peaceful, misty Unajoki River where Essa Oldmoy is just fishing. Then, boom, his best friend Toivo lands in a white helicopter to literally draft him into the cavalry. Minute 5, their flight hits a horrifying black wall of clouds filled with screaming faces. And by minute 10, they're flying over a sea blacker than black, dodging demonic tentacles before violently crash landing on the roof of a dark stone manor. It literally rips them from a peaceful reality right into a terrifying supernatural realm in the blink of an eye. That crash brings us to a massively emotional pivot point in the story. As they try to land, these giant black spear-like beams shoot straight up from a huge stone rose on the manor's roof, piercing the helicopter and striking Toivo. His final rattling words to his best friend are just, "Jump, Omwai." Right as he passes, Omwai actually sees the reflection of heavenly white horses in Toivo's eyes. It's heartbreaking. Weeping, with his clothes literally catching fire, Omwai narrowly escapes by leaping off into the darkness, crashing into a wobbly pool in this creepy area known as the Black Garden. This whole sequence brilliantly illustrates the absolute visual extremes the author is playing with. It is literally night and day. The White Riders, they are completely defined by light and purity. White limousines, glowing Bibles, the Archangel Gabriel. But on the flip side, the villain's domain, the manner of religions, is entirely consumed by darkness. We're talking toxic green poison oozing from dead trees, black-furred creatures with these eerie red auras, and grotesque hanging-tongued gargoyles. It's an incredibly stark contrast meant to highlight this epic battle between pure faith and twisted darkness. So you might be wondering, what exactly does this terrifying building represent? Well, the manor of religions is an allegorical stronghold of religious oppression. It's this horrifying, black stone structure stationed by a dead sea with dark waves crashing against its walls. Inside, the rooms are constantly shifting on these massive stone wheels. And here is the craziest part. The ones controlling the levers, demonic-looking rusty circus clowns. It's a bizarre, super unsettling image, really suggesting that religious entrapment is run by chaotic, mocking forces operating behind the scenes. Okay, so back to our main group who arrived safely in the white limo. They actually have to break into this nightmare. And the front steps are literally cursed, shooting poison and acid at them. But they overcome it by combining those unique gifts we talked about earlier. Esther reads aloud in ancient Hebrew and Koine Greek from her glowing Bible. Bob Freeman belts out this joyful gospel music, and Redwood neutralizes the dark Viking runes on the steps by throwing salt on them. Together, they trigger an earthquake that totally shatters the stairs, and Redwood kicks the massive bone doors wide open. While the group is storming the front door, out in the Black Garden,
Erisar only is fighting a completely separate, terrifying battle. He breaks into what's called the Evolution Room. It's this decaying space filled with rusty microscopes, cobweb-covered skeletons, and abandoned test tubes. It's basically a clear allegory for human reason devoid of divine light, just left to rot. In the pitch black, these human-sized, hissing spiders attack him. But right when he shouts the biblical words for heaven and earth, this massive angel of fire appears, totally tears the roof off the laboratory, and destroys the spiders, revealing God's starry sky right above them.
And that exact same guardian angel of fire actually becomes the unifying thread for all our heroes. Inside the manor's lobby, the angel leaves a trail of flaming blue footprints. Those footprints guide Abdul, Esther, Bob, and Redwood away from the dark shadows and down into the crypts. Down there, it's packed with deadly hidden traps. But Abdul, remembering a heavenly warning, manages to dodge a lethal snare and uses his golden sword necklace as a key to unlock this pure white elevator, finally letting them ascend deeper into the stronghold. Taking that elevator drops them right into the terrifying labyrinth of religions. This is where they literally have to physically dismantle monuments of spiritual oppression. First, they find a cyclops representing karma, and it's literally depicted crushing poor and broken people beneath its feet. Redwood takes it out with a flaming arrow. Next, they take sledgehammers to a blinded angel statue. And finally, they face this massive bishop statue with lizard legs, symbolizing the corrupt spirit of religiosity. Esther places her Bible in a beam of sunlight, Bob sings, and the whole statue just explodes into pieces.
Now, the destruction of that bishop statue reveals a bubbling black pond right behind it, and standing on the opposite side, none other than Issa Oldmui. He reunites with the group right at the climax. Rising up from this acid pond is the story's final absolute nightmare of a monster, the literal embodiment of the spirit of religiosity, completely covered in the chained, bleeding souls of its victims. To face it, Oldmui draws his weapon, Veritas. It's that lappish reindeer bone knife we mentioned, and the name translates to truth. It represents the ultimate tool you need to cut through systemic deception. What happens next is just the deeply emotional peak of the entire story. Seeing all those trapped victims, Oldmui knows exactly what he has to do. Envisioning his late wife, he makes the ultimate sacrifice and bravely jumps directly into the bubbling acid pond. As the acid burns him, he uses every last ounce of strength he has to strike the monster with Veritas, shattering the chains that are binding the captives. Released from their oppression by the sheer power of ultimate truth, the freed souls joyously ascend out of the darkness and straight up toward heaven. With the captives finally freed and that ultimate sacrifice made, divine intervention finally arrives. Thousands of angels show up and literally tear away the rest of the manor's roof, and Yeshua, Jesus, appears. He fulfills the glowing prophecy. Behold, I make all things new. He takes the entirety of this cursed manor of religions, crushes it down into a massive ball of fire, and hurls it away into the darkness forever. Then he catches the surviving White Riders up into the clouds, wipes away their tears, and welcomes both the survivors and the martyrs, including Oldmui, into his beautiful bright white mansion. Which really brings us to a final provocative thought I want to leave you with today. How do the extreme symbols in this story change the way we view the battle between our own personal faith and systemic fear? Topi Hall 2 doesn't really do subtlety here, right? By visualizing religious oppression as this literal rotting manor run by demons, and personal faith as glowing swords and fiery angels, he kind of forces us to examine the very real, sometimes unseen spiritual battles happening in our own lives and institutions. I hope this explainer sparked your curiosity to dive deeper into the fascinating world of literary symbolism. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.